Welcome everybody to the educational webinar series offered up by Matrix, and we have our guest ScanForce here today. Our topic is pick, pack, and ship from a mobile device, and that's using the solution created by ScanForce integrated with Sage 100 and StarShip. And we have Brian Berry with us, who's gonna walk us through the benefits and features and give us a glimpse into how we can better utilize those tools for more accuracy and better workflow and more efficiency. Brian, I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, thanks, Jeremy. I really appreciate the opportunity to come and present to you folks today. This is probably third or fourth time I've done this on different topics with Matrix and their educational series, so I really appreciate the partnership. So today, as Jerry said, we are going to be talking about our StarShip, which is our newest functionality that we have in our arsenal, if you will, here at ScanForce. So let me go ahead and dive right into the PowerPoint. And quick agenda, I'll give you a quick overview on StarShip, because I know not everybody that's coming in is already a StarShip user. You'd just be curious about what it can do. So I'll give you an overview on StarShip and an overview on us here at ScanForce as well. And then we'll talk about what kicks off the whole label printing process, which is picking within our warehouse management system application. So we'll talk about the different ways that you can utilize picking most efficiently in your warehouse. And then we'll show you the actual mobile ship, which is the name of the integration between ScanForce and StarShip. So real quick, the name V Technologies may not be one that you're familiar with. This is the parent company of StarShip. StarShip is the product, V Technologies is the company. And you can see there, they've been around since the late 80s, so they've certainly cut their teeth in the shipping world. They interface with many different applications, not just Sage applications, but they've been serving the Sage 100 community for over 25 years. And you can see that they've got many accolades, especially like from the UPS world. They're based out of Connecticut. They have offices across the country. So we do not sell the StarShip application. That is something that is an additional third party to the Sage 100 world. And so that's something that you would acquire from V Technologies, but then you would acquire this mobile ship part from us as part of our warehouse management system and tie the two together. Okay. Now, some of the features within StarShip, number one, multiple carrier. So they can interface with all the parcel carriers, LTL carriers. They have a logo screen that takes up the whole screen on their website of all the different carriers that they integrate with. And really, they're all about the same things that we here at ScanForce tout is all about efficiency. How can we do the job we've got to do? These boxes have to get out of our warehouse. How can we do it the most efficient, painless way possible, save time, help us do more with less people, those sorts of things. One of the things that they can help you do in addition to saving time is save money and reduce freight cost. So they have rate shopping as a feature that's built in. So you can tell the system in the StarShip setup that I want to be able to ship this the least expensive way possible, or I want to ship it in the least number of days possible. There's a lot of different settings there. And so some automatic things can happen. So it takes a lot of the human element out of the equation, and it does a lot of the thinking for you based on the rules that you've set up. They also have a great deal of printing capability behind the scenes. They can have things print out like if you're shipping international, they can have specific paperwork pop up, or if you're shipping hazardous materials, they have integrations for that, and they can automatically print out the proper documentation that need to go in the box with your product to go out. So there's a lot of things that they can do behind the scenes to make the things that you do all day, every day, shipping product out a lot more efficient, okay, and accurate as well. My PowerPoint appears to have frozen on me here. There we go. So then real quick about us here at ScanForce, if you're not familiar with who we are, we, like V Technologies and StarShip, are a third-party vendor in the Sage 100 world. And we've been around, as you see, since 1992. We grew out of the Sage 100 world. We have over 800 site installations and over 8,000 Sage 100 users that are banging away at our software all day, every day. We have offices, across the country. We are headquartered in Miami. That's the mothership for us. What really set us apart when we came into this market is for the first time, we allowed people to work in a disconnected environment. And what that means is what happens is, and I'm going to show you this, if I'm going to ship an order, I say I want to ship order number 12345. Well, I'm going to pull the information out of Sage about order number 12345, all the line items and quantities, and I'm going to store it in the resident memory of my handheld. That way, all of my lookups are on the local device. We don't have to do what's called a home run lookup and go back and forth to the host, Sage, every single time we need to change the screen or validate a piece of data. That makes it a lot faster for you and a lot more stable, because if for any reason you lose connection to Sage, if the Wi-Fi goes offline, there's a power blip or anything like that, you don't lose anything. It's all stored on the handheld. And then when we reacquire the signal, we'll sync back up. Okay. You can see we've got some very noticeable customers there. The platform that ScanForce is built on is very scalable. There have been users that have over 1,000 devices remote for a trucking company all across the US, all hitting at the same time. So it's a very scalable solution. Now, what we do in addition to things like shipping with StarShip is primarily our warehouse management system, or WMS for short. We have three different versions. We have a sort of a basic version we call fundamentals. We have a more advanced version that adds features and functions. And our premium version is the advanced features with the addition of multi-bin. And if you're not familiar with multi-bin, I would love to have that conversation with you. We actually wrote the multi-bin solution that Sage has adopted as their own. It's called DSD/ScanForce Multi-bin. You may be familiar with DSD. They're a large programming house. We are both master developers in the Sage world, so we wrote that multi-bin solution, and that multi-bin is embedded within our premium offering. We also do label printing. Now, I'm not talking about printing shipping labels here. We'll talk about that in a moment. This is printing labels primarily at receipt of goods. Okay, so when you're receiving, if you want to label products, or coming out of manufacturing, that sort of thing, if you have finished goods, you've put two or three things together, you've made a new product and you want to put a label on it. We are at our core a barcoding company. We love barcodes. Barcodes are super fast and they're 100% accurate. So we love barcodes. So we have a label printing suite embedded within our solution. Okay. We also have a secondary solution in addition to the warehouse management system, and that's called mobile sales. The mobile sales will allow you to empower your workers. Maybe it's a field sales rep that goes and visits customers, or maybe it's a counter sales type operation where people walk up and say, I want one of these and two of those. Or maybe you're at a trade show when you want to enter quotes and orders. Well, you can do this in a tablet format, and it flows into Sage as if it was done on a PC connected to Sage. Okay, you can print, you can email, you can capture signatures. It's a very powerful device. So this is a mobile sales application that's separate from our normal warehousing system. Okay, we also have a full manufacturing suite. So whether you're doing any of the modules within Sage for manufacturers like bill of materials, production management, or even the legacy work order product, we can still interface with. Okay. So what we think sets us apart, speed. I talked about how we store things locally on the handheld. We did several years ago something called the Million Record Challenge. We loaded up 1,000,000 records in Sage, asked for one piece of data, and it returned it in 3/100ths of a second, which is lightning fast. So no spinning dial in the middle of the screen is what we're trying to say here. It's also very intuitive. It's designed so we don't want your people to have to relearn how to receive things or relearn how to ship things. Our screen stepped them through the normal progression of those operations. And our support is second to none. If you don't believe me, ask any of our friends over at Matrix. They will give you some firsthand accounts of how we have assisted other Matrix clients that are utilizing our system. Okay. All right, so let's get into the whole pick, pack, and ship, which is what we came to talk to you about today. Okay, so first let me define some terminology. So in our warehousing system, we give you really two different options for picking and shipping an order. We have a one-step method and a two-step method. Now, the normal one-step method is what we call SO shipping. This is sort of Sage classic functionality. Okay, we just extend that functionality out onto the warehouse floor with the use of a mobile, rugged, Wi-Fi enabled barcode scanning gun. Okay. So you would pick the items, put it in a box, ship it all in one step. So if one person does the process, they get the stuff off the shelf, put it in a box, print the labels, that's the SO shipping that I'm showing here. We also can split that. And this is not a native Sage function. So this is a differentiator for us here at ScanForce. What we can do is pre-pick the orders and stage them. So if you have a situation where you want to work ahead, maybe it's second shift picking something that first shift is going to ship tomorrow, or maybe you've made something for a client, but it doesn't need to ship out for a week or a month. Well, we can pick it and stage it, and it's sort of in a quasi-shipped state. So it's reserved for that customer in that order, and it's sitting on a unique shelf or sitting in a sequestered area of the warehouse, and everyone can see that. And we even write detail back to the sales order to let people know exactly what the situation is. That order's been picked. And then when it comes time to actually ship it, we do this second step called checking and packing. And that's where we actually officially ship the product. So we can pick in two different methods, either all at one time, or we can split it into amongst two different times. Okay. Now, another thing that we can do with picking, if you have a situation where you have multiple line items on an order and you want multiple people to be able to pick simultaneously, or maybe you have different functional areas of your warehouse. Some of our customers have a refrigerated area and a freezer area, two different people. So if I have a line items on one order that cross those boundaries, one in the freezer and some in the refrigerator, we can use split picking and we can print two separate pick tickets out of Sage. And it's an A and a B version, like if it's order number 12345A and 12345B on the pick tickets, two different people can take those pick tickets and go and pick those orders simultaneously while not interfering with one another. Another option for picking in ScanForce is wave picking, which is really kind of the exact opposite of split picking. Split picking, I've got one big order and I want to split it amongst people. Wave picking, I'm going to take multiple orders, pull them together so one person can pick them. And a good, for instance, leads directly into what we're talking about today with the Starship. Let's say UPS shows up at 4:30 every day. Well, if you've got, say, 6 orders that have to go out UPS, you could put those on what we call a wave. A wave is a grouping of orders. And now you can assign that to an individual. And you can say, here, John, it's your responsibility to get all 6 of these orders ready for UPS by 4:30 today. And they're going to show up on his gun and it can say John's wave if you want it to. Okay. Another example would be if you have one customer that has 10 orders and you want to build a truckload going out to them. Well, I can group them all together and pick them and pack them and ship them simultaneously. Okay. The big efficiency gain here is, let's say on those 10 orders going out to one customer or on 10 orders going out via UPS to different customers, what if the same line item is on all 10 of those orders? Well, the traditional method that Sage would have you do is I have a pick ticket for the first order and I'm going to go to that location, pick those items for that order and package them. And then I'm going to take the second order, go back to that same location, and you lather, rinse, repeat all 10 times, and you visited the same place 10 times. Well, with wave picking, we allow you to pick all the items, the quantity that you need at one time, and then split them up later in the process and put them in the appropriate box that they belong to. Okay, so that's a little bit about wave picking. Now, directed picking ties into that, and I call directed picking the crown jewel of the whole warehouse management system. This is where I think some of the most efficiency can be gained. This is where the system, the handheld, can tell the user, go down this aisle, go to this rack, go to this shelf, and get 4 of this product. Okay, it literally directs them exactly where to go. Now, you may say, well, our worker, he's been here for 10 years. He knows all the nooks and crannies where everything is hidden. Well, that's great unless he's out sick. And then what do we do? Okay, who has that institutional knowledge to be able to know exactly where everything is? Or if you hire a new person, are they going to walk in and just instantly know where everything is? Wouldn't it be great if you just handed a scan gun and said, here, start on order number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it steps them through exactly the footsteps they need to walk. And beyond that, it will also build a serpentine path through your warehouse to pick it in the most efficient way possible. So if there's 2 line items on aisle B, Okay, we're going to go to aisle B in your warehouse one time and get both of them before we loop around to aisle C. Okay, so it can consolidate items that are close together to make the picking as efficient as possible. Okay, and that's done by pre-allocations. An allocation is really a reservation. So when a sales order is entered, we have business rules behind the scenes that say, how do you want to allocate or reserve the inventory? Because you may have the same item that exists in multiple places in your warehouse. That's the multi-bin that I was talking about a moment ago. So what allocations will do is, for instance, if you want to work on a FIFO method, very popular, the system will say, okay, the oldest material is at this location, so that's where I'm going to direct the user to go. And even if they have to go to 2 locations to get the full quantity they need, it will handle that as well. Okay. Or maybe you just want to pick in the most efficient way possible. So take me to the location where I can get everything in one pick instead of a little bit from here and a little bit from there for this one line item. Okay. So this pre-allocation will greatly help the efficiency of how you pick and make sure that you have sufficient inventory to fulfill the orders. Okay. All right. So now let's get into the actual Starship mobile ship integration. Okay. So what happens is we're going to pick the order through the handheld application and enter package details. What's in box 1 versus box 2 versus box 3. And we're going to send that back over to Sage, and it's going to automatically flow into Starship and print out our labels for us. Okay. Now, this is the normal workflow. A sales order is entered. And on our handheld application on the gun, someone would go into one of the shipping picking applications I showed you a moment ago, like SO shipping. Okay. They pick everything, and then data flows from there, the quantities and line items that were updated, and it goes into Sage shipping data entry. Okay. From there, it flows directly into Starship. This is the normal flow that we've always used, and that's still there. Okay. Now, if you're using our advanced or premium version of our package, same thing happens. We have a sales order gets entered. We're going to pick it, but then we have that intermediary step where we pick it, and then we'll do a secondary step where we check and pack it. This can happen in succession because you may have one person that's a picker and somebody else that's a packer. Or you may pick it and stage it and come back a week or a month later and do the checking, packing, and actually ship it. That's when it goes to shipping data entry, and that's when the data flows over to Starship. Okay, so there are a couple of requirements here for this to work. Number one, you must have one of our warehouse management system modules for the shipping. Okay, and you must be on the cloud version of Starship. Okay, if you have the on-premise version, this will not interface. It can only interface to the cloud version, so it would necessitate a conversation with V Technologies to talk about migrating from the on-premise version to the cloud version. Okay. Now, this does not require ScanForce's label printing suite that I described to you before, where we might print for receipt of goods or coming out of manufacturing step. So if you have, consumer level products that have a UPC code on it, you can use those. You don't have to have our labeling suite. Okay. So the printing of these labels actually comes from the Starship side, not the ScanForce side. We pass the data to Starship. Starship then generates the labels. So our label printing suite is not required. Okay. Now, Starship obviously is purchased from V Technologies. ScanForce is purchased from ScanForce. So this is a ScanForce enhancement. It's an add-on to our warehouse management system. So it is purchased from us as a subscription, and the cost is $1,800 per year. So the big advantages, you don't have to leave to go to the PC. Normally what happens is you do the picking in ScanForce, it goes into shipping data entry, then someone has to leave wherever they are out on the floor in the warehouse, go into the shipping office, for instance, log into a PC, go into Starship, and then request the labels. It's a lot of back and forth. We're just cutting all those footsteps out so you can print the labels on demand directly from the handheld application. Okay, so you can also get other shipping documents like the hazmat documents or a packing list or those international shipping documents we mentioned. So all those things can happen automatically. Okay, so let's get to the actual demo. I'm going to switch my screen sharing here and move over to this side where we can actually see I've got Sage up here on the left and I've got our handheld application on the right. So if you're not familiar, this is the way the handheld application is displayed on a mobile barcode scanning terminal that's connected via Wi-Fi in real time back to Sage. Okay, so you can have as many users set up as you wish. You could have passwords if you wish. I'm going to go ahead and log in and start the process. This is my main menu where I can do everything from, inventory transactions like physical counts and transfers, and issues and receipts, things like that. My inventory utilities tab is where I can do things like print labels, reprint labels, and things of that nature. Order processing is where we're going to be doing the demo today because we're dealing with a sales order. I also have manufacturing, license plating, some other modules here turned on, but we're going to be focusing today on this order processing menu. So order processing is where we do purchase orders and sales orders. So I have one application here for PO receiving, but I have three options for sales order shipping because if you recall from the very first point where I outlined the way we do picking, we have the SO shipping, which is the one-step method. One person picks stuff, puts it in a box, gets the shipping labels. Or we have the two-step pick and pack operation, where we can have a different person picking and then handing it off to someone at a packing station, or we can pick and stage and come back and pack it later. Okay. Now, in order to show you this the most efficient way possible, I'm going to use the one-step method because it's a little faster than doing the two-step where I pick it, then come back and do the pack. So the screens are the same. We just have them all strung together in SO shipping. So I'm going to go into SO shipping. And I'm going to search and look at all of my sales orders that I have. I scroll all the way to the bottom. I have this order number 204, 204. So I'm going to load that up. And you see that little box that said loading. That's based on our architecture. We are now downloaded all the information about order number 204 to the resident memory of the handheld. So now on the handheld, I can see that I'm getting ready to do package number 1. Okay, and then we'll switch to package number 2 in a moment. And then over here is where I enter my weights and sizes and such. Okay, so right now it's ready for me to tell it which item am I picking right now. Well, directed picking has kicked in and it has told me that I have 2 items to pick on this order. I have item 1901, which is an orange widget, and item 1902, which is a gray widget. And it's telling me which location to go and get them. It's aisle A, rack 100, bin 20. And these happen to be in the same location, but they could just as easily be on the other side of the opposite side of the warehouse. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and select the very first item. Now, if you were using a scan gun, you would be scanning barcodes. I'm not holding a scan gun, so I'm going to be using my mouse to click. You can scan barcodes, you can click with your finger, you can scroll just like you would on your phone. So I'm just going to click, and you can see it populates the item 1901 here as the first item, and I'll hit accept. And now based on those pre-allocations that we talked about, now this whole example is built on a multi-bin environment. If you're not working in a multi-bin environment, this is a little simpler because you skip this screen. You don't have to tell it what location you're pulling it from, okay? But in a multi-bin environment, this item could exist in 10 or 20 different locations potentially. And I'm gonna have to tell it which location I'm pulling from. Well, it has allocated for me 10 units in location A120. So I would, and with my gun, walk up to that location or in my forklift or whatever I was on. I would scan that location and it would populate up here in this field and I accept on through. And now it is telling me that I have allocated 10 items in this bin. And the way that you read these quantities, it's what have I shipped thus far versus what was ordered. So I've shipped 0 of 10 on the sales order. So my quantity remaining is 10. If I put, say, 6 of these in the first box, and then I came back to fill in the balance, it would tell me I've already shipped 6 out of 10, and it would do the math and tell me I only had 4 left. So it constantly keeps up with what the user's done. For simplicity's sake, I'm just going to put all 10 of the first item in the first box, and then we'll put the second item in its own box just to keep it simple. So I will say I'm allocating 10 of those. And now you'll notice that that line item has dropped off my pick list because I picked it complete. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and enter my weights and dimensions, the box sizes. I could wait and do all that at the back end after I had boxed everything, or you could do it one at a time. I'll show you the one at a time method now. So I'll click this button, and now it's opening up this window that's linking back to StarShip. So for package number 1, it wants me to enter a weight. So I'll tell it it's 15 pounds. And now it wants the package type. Okay, and this is one where I'll have to beg your pardon. So normally, if this is sized to fit on a normal barcode scanning terminal, where you see all these UPS Expresses, you would see the actual dimensions out to the side of it. Okay. But in order to make this entire screen a lot more visible and easier to read, I've got it blown up much larger than normal. Because of that, the rendering, I don't see the full width of this. That would never happen to you in the real world, I promise. On the handheld, it would render properly and you would see all these dimensions. It's just because I have this blown up to make it a little larger, it's easier to see. So I'm just going to go ahead and select the first one. And these are package sizes that are pulling from Starship, okay, because this sales order was set to go UPS. So it's giving me all the UPS possible options. If I had set the sales order to go FedEx, then it would be giving me FedEx options in my dropdown here. Okay, so I'll go ahead and hit accept. And now I'm going to increment up and I'm going to do package number 2 or box number 2 or pallet number 2 or whatever it is. So from here, I will go ahead and select the next item. I will identify the location I'm pulling it from. Again, that's only a multi-bin scenario. Okay. And I will say I'm pulling 6 quantity. And now I can enter my weights and dimensions there. So I will say this one weighs 10 pounds. And I'll select a different size box for this one. Okay. And up here at the top, whenever you're done with a transaction, you're going to have these same 2 icons for you always. I have this paper airplane, which actually sends the data back over to Sage, but I also have this one that looks like a clipboard. The clipboard shows me everything that I've done. So I can see in package number 1, I put item 1901. It came from this location, and there were 10 of them. Likewise, package number 2, this item code, this location, and there were 6 of those. And up here to this toggle, I can go through and I can sort and look at all the items that are in one or the other. Because you might have multiple items in the same box, and it would show you that here. So I'm going to go ahead and hit send and send all that data back over. Now, on that screen I was just on, I could have entered the data at that time, the weights, the package sizes. I could have done it all at that time. What I showed you was the one at the time method. Okay, so let's jump back over here. And now, by the way, what's happened as soon as I do that, my labels are printing out. Okay, so again, I don't have a label printer here, so we're not physically seeing that happen, but my labels are printing out, and now the person that's at that packing station can go ahead and label those. So I'm going to go into shipping data entry here, and this is going to go into a batch. And I'm going to have multiple orders here, but it was this order number 204 that we were working on just now. And we can see that 10 were ordered and 6 were ordered, and we shipped those exact quantities. And if I click on the shipping tab, I can see now that my ship weight, my 15 pounds and 10 pounds have added up. I have a total of 25. My freight charges have pulled forward. And if I click on the tracking tab, I can see the actual tracking numbers for both of these packages. Now, because we're working in a demo environment, it gives me these bogus numbers, but these would be legit tracking numbers for you. Okay. Now, some automatic things can happen in StarShip at this point. They have the ability to print out or generate branded email. So it looks like it's got your logo and that sort of stuff, and it can be sent directly to the person attached to the client, attached to that sales order with all this tracking information. The hope there is that they don't have to bother your salespeople and drag down their time by giving this information. It can just be automatically sent to them. Okay. All right, now let's go and take a look at StarShip and see what's happening. Let me quickly refresh this. Oh, and it timed me out while I was talking, so let me jump back in there. Okay, so here's our order number 2004. We have an invoice for it because it's officially shipped in Sage. I can see all the detail here. And if I look over here, if I click my little truck icon, it will take me into the details of this shipment. And now I'm in StarShip, but I can see the 2 packages, the total weight, the individual size. I did a UPS small box and a medium box, the weight of each. Okay. I can see the line items, the orange widget and the gray widget, the quantities. All of this information is pulling directly from ScanForce. And no one had to enter this in StarShip. This is the big benefit. No one has to go and log in at a PC and type all this in. All they did was just one extra screen at the end of the pick shipping process on our handheld where they're enter their weights and quantities, and everything magically flows here, and my labels have already printed out. Now, I can show you what that label looks like. I'll come down here and I'll request a print of those labels. And let me get those up on my screen here. Well, sorry, I lost those. So I had those set not to print because I was printing out too many labels. So I had them set to go to a PDF. So sorry, can't show you that at the end. But the labels would have already printed. I could reprint them here if I wished. Okay, so it would come out with a package 1 of 2 and package 2 of 2. So the user could simply apply those to the package right there. Okay, and that's the process. So it's execute the normal picking process through our warehouse management system, just like normal. Okay. Then there's the one extra screen, I should say, where you enter the weights and the box sizes, and the labels print out instantly, along with documentation like packing lists, hazmat documents, any sort of shipping documents. And the emails can automatically be sent from Starship to your client with all this great information about the shipping and the tracking. Okay, so that will conclude our demo. So Jeremy, let me turn it back over to you. Do we have any questions that have come in during the process? And Jeremy, you're on mute if you're trying to talk.
That'll always help if I'm off mute. We do have a few questions, so thanks, Brian. So the question is, do we have to purchase another Starship license for each ScanForce user
That's a
is
good
doing
question.
picking?
So yeah, so no, you do not have to. So once you purchase the mobile ship application on our side, that's what gets you the extra screen where you enter the weight and the shipping, and we just send that data through Sage into Starship, so it does not require any extra licensing from Starship at all.
Perfect. And then next question, can we connect to scale for when we're in the shipping process?
That's a yes and no. So this is phase 1 of this application, of the mobile ship application. Right now, phase 1 does not have scale connectivity, but we are going to be adding that in a future release. So that is coming down the pipeline right now. It must be typed in, but that can be entered automatically, can flow in. One other thing that I will mention, also in phase 1, this works for Starship's parcel shipments. So UPS, FedEx, small box type shipments. In the next phase that comes out, it's going to be expanded to work with their LTL type carriers.
Beautiful. And then I think our last question is, can the mobile device print the labels so the packers got them for the order?
Well, if you mean to a mobile printer, there's a couple different ways to do that, Jeremy. So what can happen is what most people will do is they will have a printer, like a Wi-Fi enabled printer, maybe even a UPS WorldShip printer that's somewhat centrally located to wherever they're doing the packing. So if you have 3 packing stations, you might have 3 printers, one on each. Or if you have a one printer near the shipping dock, some people might just utilize that, and the print job can be routed there. But you can also have a mobile printer, like a belt printer, and the labels can print directly there. So if I'm standing at the loading dock and I hit the paper airplane on the top of the handheld screen, then my labels just print out on my belt. Okay. Now, most of these labels are 4x6s, and the mobile printers have kind of a small printer roll that can physically fit in them. So you're not going to get a ton of labels out of one roll on a mobile printer. But yes, you certainly can do that. So I hope that answers the printing question.
It makes sense. So that concludes our questions.
Okay. So yeah, if anybody would like to ask specific questions on this, or see a more, specific demo, how do I do this? How do I do that? Give Jeremy a call, or whoever it is at Matrix that you talk to from a consulting standpoint, and they can get in touch with me, and we can set that up for you at your convenience.
Absolutely. We're here to answer any questions and coordinate and kind of connect the dots. Brian, can you throw up the last slide? We'll make sure everyone has our emails and phone numbers.
Yes, yes, let me do that. I just have to share the other screen here.
No problem.
And there we go.
There you go. So if you have any questions, you can email myself, Jeremy Russell at matrixintegrated.com. or you can also get a hold of Nate. Nate will make sure we connect the right people together. Feel free to call us, and we really appreciate Brian, your help and expertise in this area. And if there's anything we can do to help, just let us know.
Yep, my
Appreciate
pleasure.
your
Thanks for the
time.
invitation.